Hey, hello. Welcome to the Bainbridge Island Senior Community Center's Something to Talk About program. I am Mimi Hicklin, and today we're going to be discussing media literacy and safety with NetBridge, an intergenerational program that addresses topics like learning how to recognize AI, phone and email scams, and how to verify sources in the media. But before we begin, I'm going to kick us off with a couple of announcements. Something to Talk About is sponsored by Fieldstone Communities of Bainbridge Island. Fieldstone offers assisted and independent living and memory care communities located on their beautiful Rolling Bay campus. They also include day stay and respite care programs. Call 206-594-1010 and ask for Randy or Jamie, and they'll be happy to treat you to lunch or dinner when you stop by to visit. You can also check out their website at fieldstonecommunities.com. We would also like to acknowledge that we meet on the ancestral homeland of the Suquamish people, the people of the clear salt water. The Suquamish have lived on the water of the Salish Sea since time immemorial. We honor them and are learning from their stewardship of these lands and waters. And with that, I am going to hand it over to our friends at NetBridge to introduce themselves, and they'll give a little presentation. And we will make time afterwards for questions if there are any. So take it away.
Okay, great. Hi, everyone. Let me share my screen. Okay, hello. My name is Annika,
And I'm Joey.
and we're the co-founders of NetBridge. We're juniors at Newport High School, and this project is basically to aim at educating the general public about how to be safe online. So, some goals of our presentation today. First of all, we want to help you understand the importance of protecting your personal information online. This includes learning how to recognize scams, email, phone, and now, more importantly, AI scams. Additionally, we want to help you learn how to think critically when it comes to consuming the media in your day to day life. So that means learning how to find sources in news articles, Facebook posts, and learning how to be able to verify how objective and how up to date these sources are, right? So, first things first, we're not here to demonize the internet, okay? When used correctly and safely, the internet can be a wonderful source of information. In fact, I encourage everyone here today to go use the internet. It's truly is a grove of connection and learning, and it's fantastic for doing these things. However, there is malicious content and there's malicious people out there on the internet. And the purpose of the presentation today is to help you use the internet as a resource while still being aware of the risks while you're online. First up, the first scam that we're going to cover are text scams. These are very, very, very common. You might receive a couple of these a day. Some common examples is, the government telling you that you have an overdue toll that you haven't paid, or maybe a parking ticket. And these are very easy generally to deal with. First things first, you will always want to verify the number that you're getting texted from. All right. So, an example of this could be that when you receive a text from the government saying that you have an overdue toll that you haven't paid yet, and you need to pay it right now, clicking this link. All right. You want to go to Washington Department of Transportation.gov. That's how you know it's a government website because it ends in .gov. All right. When you go to that website, you want to make sure that the phone number they've linked in that website matches up to the one that you're getting texted from. If it doesn't, that's how you know it's a scam. For example, when I went to this .gov website, I found out that the government, in fact, will never text you to tell you to, pay your overdue tolls, and that you can only pay them at mygoodtogo.com, which did not match up at all to the link that they sent me. All right. Plus, I don't have my license, so there's no way I couldn't gotten a toll. Number two, you never want to reply, click on any links, or share any sort of personal information with the scammers. This opens you up to being more susceptible to these scams because now they think, oh, they're responsive to this. So I'm going to keep sending them more and more and more scams until maybe one day they misclick, they click on that link and they get scammed into whatever I'm doing. Not only that, but also when you click on the links that they send you and when you share your personal information, it opens you up to getting viruses on your laptop that can collect your personal data and your personal information, which makes you even more vulnerable because now they know how to target you. All right. They have your information now. So now they know, hey, I know that she has, she lives in Bellevue. All right. Or she lives in Bainbridge Island. And now I know I'm going to specifically target her using that information, right? And number three, when you do identify these scams, hey, this is suspicious. Like, I know this is a text scam. What should I do now? Well, you should always do these three things. You should report the number so that other people don't get scammed using the same number. You should block it so that you don't get texts back from that number, and you should delete the scam. These three steps prevent you from, scams cluttering up your inbox, and it prevents you from future scammers texting you even more. The second type of scam that we're going to cover today are phone calls. These have become a little less prevalent over the years, but they're still very much there. And so you might be thinking, well, how do I know? Right? So, number one, this is the most important one. You should never respond to any scam likely calls, right? So, when you get a phone call that says scam likely, that means that the phone company that you're using, might it be, Apple or Samsung, their security system has flagged this number as a suspicious number from their, calling habits, right? Maybe they've called a huge volume of numbers over the past few weeks. That means they've been flagged as scam likely. And it is 9 times out of 10, these are for sure a scam call. But if you do, even if you do think this might be someone you know or might be an important number, you should never respond. All right. They have other ways of reaching you. They could call you again. They could text you. They could leave a voicemail. They can do all these things, and it's not worth compromising your safety just because you think it might be an important number. And the same thing goes for unknown numbers. All right, so what if it does say that it's someone you know? Maybe it's your bank or your insurance company calling you. Well, you shouldn't trust their caller ID anyways, right? Because scammers have the edge of technology at their fingertips nowadays. And they use this method called spoofing in order to change their caller ID so that they can change it into something that they know that you're going to pick up and that you think is trustworthy. So, for example, they might change it to the Bank of America, or maybe it's Kaiser Permanente, right? And then you pick up and it lures you into a sense of safety where you feel comfortable sharing your bank info, your social security number, and all of these things that they can use to scam you out of. So you should always verify their information before sharing your personal data. So the most common way to do this is something called multi-factor verification. It's where you use a ID or security question in order to make sure that it is actually the company calling you, and the company can make sure that you really are the person that they're talking to, right? So for insurance companies, it might be an insurance ID, or it might be, something like, oh, what was the name of your first pet? Security questions like that. Also, another way you can do this is you can go to the company's website and you can make sure the phone number they're calling you from matches the phone number that they've linked on the website. And another way you can do this without going to the official website is you can go to truecaller.com where you can plug in the phone number and it'll check whether it's an official phone number, it'll do it for you without you having to manually check that. And that's really useful if you're feeling like a little lazy, you know? And the third type of scam that we're going to cover today are sweetheart scams. This is by far, in my opinion, the most cruel and the most malicious type of scams, right? It specifically targets your human qualities, your kindness, your empathy, your ability to, fall in love, right? And these have become a lot more prevalent over the years, especially after the pandemic, as older Americans have gotten um, more used to using dating sites online. In fact, more than 6,700 people over the age of 60 lost nearly $367 million to these scams in 2023. So you might be asking, well, how do I identify them, right? I can't check whether, the person behind the screen is actually the person that they're claiming to be. But you can watch out for these four behaviors. The first one is going to be something called love bombing. It is exactly what it sounds like. When you first start talking to them, they're going to shower you with excessive praise, gifts, whether it be online or in person. And they're going to say, I love you within the first few weeks or months of meeting. And you're just going to feel like, wow, I'm the most important person to them in that entire world right now. These behaviors are incredibly, popular among scammers because it lures you into falling in love with them, you know? And not only do scammers do this, this is also a trait of, very narcissistic people that you can watch out for. Number two is that you want to watch out for their grammar, their accent, and their spelling. Because a lot of these scammers are located in a different country, they might say that they're a native English speaker, but they're really not. So if the grammar, their accent, and their spelling doesn't match up to what a native English speaker might sound like, you want to be, a little suspicious. You want to think critically about this. All right. So if it doesn't, you might think, oh, like you want to watch out for more of these other signs so that you can see whether if it's a real person or not. And number three, the details, they don't match up. All right. And this, a very popular example is if they say they're located in Seattle or Bainbridge Island, but when you text them at 3 p.m. and they don't respond until 3 o'clock in the morning, that might signal that they're in a different time zone. And which could definitely happen since they're probably located in a different country. So if trust your instinct, right? If you feel like something is off, cut it off. It's never worth compromising your safety and losing, hundreds of thousands of dollars over these scams. And number four, every single sweetheart scammer is going to do this. They will absolutely refuse to meet up with you in person. This is because they were 100% hiding behind a fake persona, right? It might be an image that they pulled online, in which case you can always check doing a reverse image search on Google Images to check if the image, if there's results from Google where they say, it might be like a different person if the names don't match up. And that's a very easy way to check what their identity. So they'll refuse to meet up online, right? They'll make up a bunch of excuses like, I'm at a work conference, I'm on a work trip, I have family responsibilities, I'm just really, really, really swamped right now. But if this happens over, 3 or 4 times that you're asking them, that's a giant, giant red flag. All right. You should immediately, if this happens more than like 3 or 4 times, you should immediately cut them off because that's like 99%. That's a scammer.
All right, for our next type of scamming, it's phishing, spelled with a PH instead of an F. And phishing it's not just like specifically text scam or call scam, it's like an umbrella term, a specific type of scamming that could happen over text, over call, email, or just online on a website. So, what is phishing? Phishing is basically when someone is pretending to be like a company or an official organization so that they can ask for your personal information be that your home address, your like bank information, or even your social security number. And now, how do we stay safe from phishing? Well, first of all, make sure that when you're online, you do not provide any of your personal details unless you're on an official website or an official app. For most government or just any like legitimate businesses, they will make sure to have like an official portal that you can use to submit your information, any sensitive data you may have, because they know that their users' privacy matters, and they want to make sure that their clients do not like reveal any private information on unsecured places. So just remember, usually not even usually, okay, never will you be required to give like sensitive information over text or over call. So what's another way that you can tell that you're being scammed over a text? Well, okay, from a personal example, once I received a text saying, hey, your package has been lost, your package is there was an problem with delivering it. So please click on this website and update your address to fix it. And it sounds legitimate. You may have like already ordered a package recently and you're expecting it to come, but it hasn't. So you might be tempted to click on the website and just update your address. It makes sense, right? And this is the exact link I got at the bottom. And you see, it might look legitimate at first. See the USPS, that's a legit company and they do shipping. But if you read the link a little bit more carefully, you'll notice that there are mistakes. So the word packages is misspelled. It's missing an A and the S and the E, they are swapped. So please keep in mind that if there's any mistakes in the links or the messages that you receive, it is most definitely a scam, because an official, like such a big company like USPS would never allow such like a trivial mistake to make it through their systems. It's insanely unprofessional. So this is like a great sign of, hey, this is a scammer. This is not a real link. Do not click on it. So why do you want to avoid clicking on these links? Because they could lead you to malicious websites where they will ask for your information and steal it. Or even worse, there's a chance that the link you click on it can just immediately like install malware on your device, and that can just directly get personal information from your whatever device you're using. And the next type of scam we have is called AI scamming. And AI scamming is a lot more prevalent nowadays with, just how advanced artificial intelligence has really become in the past few years. And the most common way of using AI for scamming is called deepfakes. Deepfakes is basically when you use AI to create content of someone, be it images, videos, or audio, without having the person there to create it. Like back in the day, like if we want a photo of someone, we get the someone and then we take a photo of them. But now that's not even necessary, okay? If you just have some photos of a specific person, you can use AI to generate a completely new photo that can be pretty convincing and of them doing something they may have never done before. So what are ways that you can recognize these fake photos? Well, first, look in the background, look at the photo, see if there's any like odd spots that seem unrealistic or distorted, because AI is imperfect. So oftentimes you could see like, different little mistakes that in the photo, the details that don't match up. And, also be wary of perfection. If the photo seems like it's like staged, or perhaps, it just seems a little uncannily perfect, be like, be aware of your senses. Just if you think something is fishy, be careful. And what are some examples of AI scamming? Well, in the case of photos, they could be used for, as we mentioned earlier, sweetheart scamming. So in one case, a French woman was scammed out of like $800,000 because she believed that Brad Pitt was texting her. And the way that she fell for the scam was because the scammer used AI generated photos of Brad Pitt that matched up with their conversations. They had like a photo of him holding a sign of her name. And, that could just seem so realistic, because with your eyes, you see it's Brad Pitt. But if you just look at the photos a little more, you realize that they seem a little bit uncanny. He's always staring at the photo, even though it may not make sense. And yeah, it's just little details like that that kind of give away that it's AI. So really be careful online. And audio could also be used to scam you. So one example would be perhaps you receive a call from an unknown number one day and you pick it up. But please don't do that, okay? As we mentioned earlier, let it go to voicemail. Just be careful. But yeah, let's assume you did pick it up. And on the other end, you hear your son's voice and it's saying, hey, mom, I got into a car crash. My phone was destroyed and now I'm calling from the hospital. And, that seems legit, like he's calling from a new number because his phone is broken and he needs money. But first of all, you want to check since it is a new number, just to be safe, text your son, call your son on his number. And if he does respond, well, then boom, that's a scam. That's not your son. That's just fake. If he does not respond, there are also, just make sure you, just to be safe, you want to like check the number that he's calling from, maybe use truecaller.com as we mentioned earlier, or just search up like the hospital he claims to be at, see if it's their official number. And just to make sure that all the details that he tells you, they match up. Just to know, that you can trust the call because nowadays what you see and what you hear are not necessarily true, unfortunately, because of AI generated content. And aside from scamming, we also want to cover finding credible sources online and verifying your sources. This is necessary not just to make sure that you don't get scammed, but also just, in general, if you want to find information or do some research online, you want to make sure that everything you see, you make sure the author is credible. So what do I mean by that? Well, for example, if you read like an article and it says, stop eating oatmeal, it's really bad for your guts and it's horrible for you, cut it out of your breakfast. And, let's slow down a little bit. Let's make sure that whoever is writing this article is actually, educated on the topic because anyone can upload any article they want online, but that doesn't mean they know what they're talking about. You know what I mean? In this case, maybe you want to check if the author has maybe a degree in nutrition or biology, or you want to check if they have like any previous experience working in this field before you want to trust their article. And another thing you can check is like the website itself. Is it accurate? Is it objective? Is there any bias? Because some organizations that post websites, maybe they have like inherent like political and social leanings that may be generally known. So you want to do some research on that organization because, bias is end of the day, it's inevitable online. Everyone will have some bias, but it's always good to be aware of what biases could be present in whatever you're reading so that you yourself can see the website in a more objective light and just not fall prey to any like prejudices that you may have like gone unnoticed. And then lastly, you want to check if the website you're reading from is up to date because like the internet has been around for a few decades now, so there are some out of date stuff. For example, if you read like a scientific article from 2008, even though the authors may be like qualified in what they're talking about and the website is not biased, just because it's from 2008, science has advanced a lot since then. You want to make sure you acknowledge that and keep that in mind when you're deciding whether or not the article is like, is it relevant today or is it still accurate today? And yeah, that's pretty much all we wanted to talk about. And following is just an overview of like the main points we want you to take away.
So, the 3 tips that we want you to take away from this presentation today is number 1, it's to always verify your sources, right? We've said this over and over. Verify, who you're calling, who you're texting, and whether the author of a news article is credible. Always check your sources. Number 2, it's to when in doubt, always do these 3 things: block, report, delete. All right. If you're like iffy about whether a text is a scam or not, just do it. Same thing goes with like sweetheart scams, dating sites. If you think this person is trying to scam you out of your money, just cut them off. All right. It's always better to be safe than sorry. And it's better to regret cutting someone off than to regret getting scammed out of thousands of dollars.
And thirdly, you always want to trust your instincts. And, sometimes if you're not sure, maybe you can ask for a second opinion, phone a friend or perhaps ask a family member, hey, do you think this could be a scam text? Or, hey, do you think this website is credible? And as we mentioned earlier, we do not want to demonize the internet. It's beautiful. It has so much information that would not have been available to the general public before. So we always encourage everyone to use it. But yeah, it's always important to keep in mind the risks that could happen when you're using the internet so that you can be more careful and mindful of what you're doing day to day. All right. I see that we got a question from Marcy. Your email server doesn't have report as junk. I see. Yeah, usually if you just eliminate the email for you yourself, it would be fine because you know if it's scam, so you won't be scammed by it. The report for junk is just like for other people, if you could report it as junk so that in the future the scammer could be caught and just won't be scamming anyone else.
Marcy, Sorry, I don't know if you are able to go off mute, but a lot of times you can select, there's a little checkbox next to the individual email message, and then you are given more options, and one of those can be report as junk or unknown sender. I don't know what email platform you're using, but most of them now do have the option to report as opposed to just delete, but it can be a little tricky getting there, and they're different platforms. So
Yeah, I know if you're using Outlook right now, you can just go to click on the profile and then click on the more button and you can there should be an option for you to block the sender, which you can also use if you don't want to like there is an option to report as junk.
Yeah. And oftentimes it might not say like report as junk directly. You could see like a little flag or something. That's usually like the symbol for you want to report this as junk.
yeah. Um, I will just say also that we have high schoolers come in and help with tech support here at the senior center. And if you're having any trouble um, deleting unwanted mail or reporting unwanted mail, you can call the front desk and see when they'll be here, and we'll be happy to walk through um, the process with you. Because sometimes it just needs an extra pair of eyes. They don't make it as easy as they really.
Yeah, it should be.
But something I really appreciate about your presentation is just the idea that it's always better safe than sorry. I think that a
Mhm.
lot of times these scammers, in whatever medium they come through, they come with a lot of urgency, and it's easy to get sort of wrapped up in the fast-paced conversation, and so you stop, or you don't have the time to think critically about, like, is this really something? And
Yeah,
the
exactly.
idea of, like, if your son is calling from the hospital, just call his real phone. Like,
Uh-huh.
it seems so obvious, but in the moment you can get swept up because you know, they're taking advantage of your emotional
Exactly.
state. Yeah.
Especially I think with the sweetheart scams, like they're, they create like a sob story of sorts. They're like, oh, my brother, my sister, they're, seriously ill. Like, please, I need the money to pay the medical bills. And it's like, you feel so bad, right? And you pay them and then they just like completely ghost you. And you're like, oh, afterward, you're
Oh,
thinking back on it like, wow, no, that was a
Yeah.
scam.
Yeah. And it's so prevalent these days. I mean, we our staff here at the senior center, volunteers, members, I mean, so many people have experienced this on sort of micro levels for sure, but also like we've had folks where it's like someone's impersonating their boss or anyway, and saying, "Oh, go buy gift cards at Safeway and I'll reimburse you." And it's believable. So one extra tip that I would just add, and you kind of touched on this, but especially over email, scammers can make their display name look accurate, but then if you hover your mouse over the display name, you see that the sender isn't
Yeah.
actually, it's like they have some kind of wonky
Mhm.
email address, and that's
That's
another red
me.
flag.
Yeah.
It's like it can say this is from Mimi Hicklin at biseniorcenter.org, and then if you put your mouse over it, it has like Mimi at LMNO, it's just nonsense.
Yeah,
So
especially I think phone calls. Like Apple now has a verified user system. So that's really useful. If you see like, verified company, verified user below the phone number, you can also use that to check whether it's actually a
oh,
company.
that's great. Yeah. Yeah, I think the main takeaway is like trust your gut,
Mhm.
and like you said, if someone's really trying to get a hold of you and they're the legit person they say they are, they'll call back or they'll
Exactly.
get a hold of you a different way. You're not going to miss your opportunity.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. This is really important information. It's so valuable. Our membership is really thankful that you guys came on to talk about this. And yeah, it's obviously very relevant in today's world. So we appreciate you taking the time, and it was a great presentation.
Yeah, thank you so
Thank you
much.
for having
It
us.
was great coming on.
And we'll, like I said at the beginning of the call, we'll also post this on our YouTube channel, and it'll be live on Spotify. So you can watch the recording afterwards.
Great.
Okay,
Yeah, thank
thank
you
you
so
both.
much. It was great coming on. Yeah,
Yeah, thank you so much.
see ya.